Blog Talk Radio.
I saw a cloud today. I watched it change its shape into a dinosaur, a whale, a mermaid, and a plane. The mermaid was pregnant, and then it turned into a Doberman, and the Doberman just turned back into the sky. Then I saw a real plane flying awfully low, man, dropping toxic chemicals all over my town. It says to help us, but then it's trying to hold us down and try and take away our clouds and replace them with their own crop dust in downtown. They say it's the ozone, but they don't care about your home. They're just trying out new ways of population control. We're young and we're bold. We can throw away their laws and replace them with our own. And the story will be told about the group of young adults who overthrew the throne, shone a light on just how bright this world could surely shine. Utopia works conceptually, but even in reality, to overthrow the state, we all gotta be in the right state of mind. I saw a bird today, I watched it fly away, and in my heart I knew I had to do the same. Town's really gotten to me, the streets smell rotten to me, and I still can't stand those goddamn fucking planes. But they're only flying now, someday they'll be bombing town. They already started a secret chemical war. They've taken all we had and still want more. The sky is saturated with rain, I swear I'm not insane. It's going to pour, it's going to pour. So don't you use no phone, cause the government can bug anybody's home. So don't walk the streets alone, cause they might steal you in the night without your family being told. But we're young and we're bold, and we can throw away their laws and replace them with our own. And the story will be told about the group of young adults who overthrew the throne, shone a light on just how bright this world could surely shine. Utopia works conceptually, but even in reality, to overthrow the state, we all gotta be in the right state of mind. We all gotta be in the right state of mind. There's no telling just how far we can climb if we're just in the right state of mind.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Universal Truth Evolution Blog Talk Radio channel. Thank you once again. We are scheduled today to be talking to Stephen Bassett at some point, and we're just kind of waiting for him to call in right now. There's always much to talk about going on in the world anyways, so we can always dive into things until Stephen gets on the air with us. I'm sure that's going to be an awesome time. So I hope everyone out there is feeling groovy and ready to delve into some information that major media does not usually cover. It definitely doesn't like to cover, because we expose a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't think is true, but all of us out there know that there is definitely more to this reality than a lot of them have told us to believe. So here we are, and diving into another episode here. Like I said, we do have Stephen Bassett scheduled for today, and hopefully we'll be hearing from him soon. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Stephen Bassett's work, he is the founder of Paradigm Research Group, which is a group that spearheads the subject of exopolitics, which has to do with how the extraterrestrial issue factors into political affairs, and the study of that in itself, as well as working towards what Stephen has coined disclosure with a capital D, meaning that there is a formal acknowledgement from the United States government that, yes, we don't necessarily know everything that's flying around in our space. As researchers such as Stephen will point out, that there already really has been disclosure with the small d. There's many FOIA documents now that show inquiries into this, or just straight up mentions of extraterrestrial presence or technology and all other good groovy stuff that you and I find intriguing as all anything. So there already is that, on top of the numerous witness accounts of all kinds, both psychic and physical contact that's happened now, on top of just the private pictures that have been taken now and been displayed on the internet and looked at by millions of people at this point. So disclosure, in a sense, has already happened. It's already going on right now. So it's really about bringing this all to the forefront of the global consciousness, to really accept our place in the universe as not really just being a little island unto ourselves created by God 10,000 years ago. Yeah, we know that it's not necessarily how it panned out. So it's up to those of us here to really end that truth embargo, as Steve also uses as well. And on that subject, while we got some time here, that is a flyer campaign that I know I'm trying to launch here with the help of the Universal Truth Evolution, is an End the Truth Embargo campaign on more subjects than just the extraterrestrial issue, but going into things like the Fed, Big Pharma, 9/11, and having flyers that are easily distributed and printed by anyone who's interested in doing in really being active and sharing information and trying to open some minds there. Or if you know someone who's kind of hovering on that cusp of kind of like, oh, are they really here to help us? Are they really trying to? Oh, I don't know sometimes. Yeah, those people, bam, give them something like this. Because how I'm formulating these, and with the help of any feedback I'm getting, is really, as I keep stressing on the show, is to ask hard questions, because no one here is stating that we know everything. So there's questions all of us have that aren't easily answered, and so we need the collective to help us answer these questions. And so that's what really I'm aiming this campaign at, is to really share the commonality, on subjects like extraterrestrials, and the knowledge that we've acquired now over the many decades of research that have gone on by people like Stephen Bassett, as well as even a lot of other ufologers and such, who have worked for decades now very tirelessly to bring this to everyone and to help really inform more people that this subject is very tangible, and not only is it tangible, but it's really the biggest issue humanity can really face together. That's the real issue there, is that how does this all figure in to the big picture? So those are some of the things that we ongoingly discuss here at the Universal Truth Evolution. Because, as we know, it's like there definitely is more to life than what TMZ or Fox News might have you believe. So, but speaking of the news, since we're still waiting to hear from Stephen here, let's go ahead and jump into some of the stuff that's going on right now that might interest you and I. One of the things that I know all of us are interested in too is 9/11, like I mentioned, and as many of you may know, that the whole 9/11 truth movement really was like an upswell from a lot of the first responders giving their accounts of what happened, and then coming into issues with their health due to the rubble and everything that was in it, like the thermate, and of course the asbestos, which has led to all kinds of medical complications for all these first responders, and they've been fighting for, soon it'll be a decade to get a little help. And I'll be posting a link in the chat room here about the deal that's being struck between the suits in Washington actually giving these people the money that they need for their health care, because up to this point they really were getting nothing. I believe We Are Change had an article about, or had a report about them on YouTube way back when, where it kind of details out some of the health issues that they're arising from basically responding and helping people during the 9/11 incident. And so all this time there's been opposition, in the Senate about this bill. And what were they worried about? They're worried about money. They're worried about money. They're worried about the deficit. It's amazing. That's very telling, though, because what does that say? I mean, it's like they're worried about the money. Meanwhile, there's all these firemen and women and policemen and women who are coming in to all these health complications, and these guys are worried about their money. So it lets us see where their priorities really lie. And they'll say it's about the deficit. They'll say it's about the country and all this other stuff. But obviously, it's really just them protecting their own interests. On multiple levels, not just the financial one, but obviously this whole 9/11 saga gets into a lot of incriminating things. Just as I'm not sure if I know many people here, I'm sure, are very aware of Project Camelot, another site for a lot of whistleblowers and alternative news, if you will. They recently had a report concerning some of the 9/11 issues that came out recently, and I'll post this link in the chat room too. But it's an interview concerning a man named Victor Bout. Victor Bout is a arms dealer. He was in the movie. They had a movie portraying him with Nicolas Cage and Jared Leto, Lord of War, I think it's called. Either way, they're framing this guy for selling a nuclear-tipped missile, a Russian nuclear-tipped missile that bears a striking resemblance to a couple of frames that they've shown us of the Pentagon strike. And so in a sense, this is interesting because this all does lead into disclosure in a lot of ways, because as you're seeing, they're kind of turning on themselves internally. They're trying to make a fall guy out of this guy, apparently, if we go ahead and read the article there in the interview. That it's interesting because you can see they're already bracing for some of this truth to come out and start impacting people. And so when they do, they need fall guys. Just like Silverstein will probably be one of them too in terms of 9/11. But yeah, either way, it's good to see that the first responders there are the people who just pretty much just ran into one of the most fallacious scenes I think we've seen in modern history in quite a while, selflessly to try to help others. And it's about time they get a little bit of help from the government, who at all this time was trying to saying they honor them, and let's not forget them while we bomb little brown people, and all those other kind of things. And so, but now at least they're getting their money. I'm going to check. Since we have a caller, I want to see if this is Steven, so give me a second, folks. I'm going to check. And hello, caller. Are you there? Hello. Hello, caller. Are you there? You're on Universal Truth Evolution Blog Talk Radio. Okay, I will try back again with our caller there. But we will keep moving on. Something else that I recently reported on, the situation in Belarus. Obviously that hasn't really subsided that much. There's riots. For those who haven't heard about what's going on in Belarus, there's some civil unrest regarding the recent elections and their President Alexander Lukashenko being reelected under suspicious circumstances. This all, once again, correlating with what was going on with some of the cables from WikiLeaks, and saying that this man had no intention of stepping down from power. So it was reported in USA Today that some of these people that were arrested during the protest were candidates and reporters, and apparently some of those candidates are going to be facing 15 years in prison for voicing their concerns. Well, the ones who were released, I think there's a couple of them that were released, they had appointments with the KGB to find out, what's up with this, protest thing, guys. So once again, it's good to stay informed of all these things, and just to kind of give that support and be aware of what's going on in the world, so we can all lend that energetic and cognitive support to people who are really trying to bring about the truth here. Because, as I mentioned this in the show before, that I found it pretty analogous to what was going on in America during the re-election of President Bush. There was a lot of us saw that, there was some weird stuff going on. There's been information that came out later about the voting machines being very questionable in terms of their security and the counts. And it was like the same thing, that there was a small group of us who were saying, hey, this doesn't look right. What's up with this? Especially after coming off of another election that was hotly contested. And we were looked at as we were crazy, but it's like, it's not necessarily true. As we see some of these, people as what our United States Embassy termed very disturbed President Alexander Lukashenko intended to stay in power, and apparently he did. So we have to be cautious of these things. So this guy's already been in since 1994. He's had a good long run there. So I think that maybe it's time the truth really gets out internationally, and we get some of that support going. I'm going to try our caller again here and see if who this might be, and if maybe they want to chat with us or whatnot. It's all good. Hello, caller, are you there? Hello, caller. Okay, I'm guessing that's probably not Stephen. So we'll just wait around. We'll keep the show going for a while here and see what happens. And there's still some stuff we can talk about. And actually, until Stephen does call in, if anyone else does want to call in, or if you want me to speak on anything, feel free to post those questions or call our number, and join in the party here. So, but speaking of earth changes, shall we say, there was actually a large earthquake in Japan this last night, yesterday, whatever, depending on where you're at in the world. 7.4. It's Japan's a fairly tectonically active place, but as we're kind of seeing more and more researchers like David Sereda and to an extent Richard Hoagland have studied the correlations of earthquakes and the positionings of the sun and such. And then I figure that might interest a lot of us, considering the whole alignment that's happening with 2012. And I know a lot of people have their speculations with what's going to happen and all other kind of things like that. But I always kind of point people who are, in the very least, intrigued at some kind of prospect of some kind of change coming. I tend to just point them to the fact that that there is an alignment that's going on right now that's very rare, and then just on a physical level, even not going beyond the laws of thermodynamics, just due to our placement in the galaxy in that centered disk, it's a very, very high density area due to the magnetic field surrounding the galaxy's magnetic field. So a lot of the things we hear about, like the photon belt and all this other stuff, they're definitely true to an extent. There's definitely some truth to some of these. But as we've seen in the fossil records, once again, this does not mean the end of all life. This isn't a disaster waiting to happen. There might be some changes. People will probably go a little little batty for a while as consciousness elevates and we become aware of certain things. But life will go on. The fossil records prove that, and I do like pointing to David Wilcock's meta-analysis of the situation, where he's drawn great correlations between the fossil records as well as civilization records to show that on these cycles that there's ecological and biological booms every 25,000 years. So we have a caller right now, and I'm going to go ahead and see who this might be and see what they might want to chat about. And caller, you're on Universal Truth Evolution Blog Talk Radio. What's on your mind? Hello, caller, are you there? Hello? Hello, caller, are you there? Okay, well, I'm either having problems with the switchboard or we have some people just calling in that are expecting Stephen Bassett just as we are at any moment, hopefully. But yeah, like I was saying, this whole alignment, I don't doubt as time goes on we see more correlations with the large bodies in space and having an impact here on this planet. So it's pretty intriguing times to be living right now, because there's so many things going on. And while we're sticking in Asia and talking about intriguing things, there's actually just a report through the Reuters about a restaurant that opened in China that has robot waiters and other robot sort of service units, I guess you can call them, because staffing is apparently a problem in certain regards over there, and they figured why not make these robots that can just serve the drinks, serve the food, and be courteous 24 hours a day as long as the power is flowing. So I think this is kind of cool, because I think a lot of us, especially those of you out there who are baby boomers or even older, who were told in the year 2000 we're supposed to have flying cars and robots and all this other crap, and you see that there is some flying stuff around, but obviously we don't see it. But see, here we go. At least we're getting the robots now, and so that's kind of cool. So I see a comment in the chat room here about job security, and but it could very well be. But you know what? There's going to be a great need for people to service and repair these robots. So here we go. We're starting a new economy in this brave new world that we're all trying to manifest here. It's interesting. The shifts that are going on in the world, and like I said, while we're waiting for Stephen to show up here, by all means, if anyone has a question, feel free to fire it off in the chat room, or just call up. And if you wanted to touch upon any of the subjects, including exopolitics or anything else really that we tend to talk about here at the Universal Truth Evolution channel, by all means, please, join us here. So this is a fun little impromptu show here. We have obviously have some time to kill while we're waiting for our guest to see if he's available today after all. But another thing happening in the news right now too, it has to do with some missile treaties that are going on, which has kind of been coined the START program. As we know, we all have these different programs all have cozy little nicknames. And this having to do with the missile defense and systems that they wanted to put up. And before the treaty, the problem was, I guess, our relations with Russia and how we're essentially putting missiles in their backyard. And they're kind of like, well, what's up with that? Well, now apparently we're going to be working a little more closely with the Russians on some things militarily. So they're a little bit more keen on the idea. So This is also interesting though too, because what does this mean? You'll hear some people like maybe Alex Jones or someone like that saying, "See, this is their new world order. They're coming to get us." And well, yeah, what else is new? They do that every day, right? But really, one way or another, concerning the subject or the theme of what today is supposed to be with exopolitics, this one way or another, the world has to come together under one cohesive unit or order, okay? But it's how we shape that order. They want to do it one way, we want to do it another way. There's more of us, let's voice it. And that's the difference. But one way or another, we do have to work in cooperation internationally. I'm not saying we don't have to dissolve sovereignty. We don't have to do any of that stuff. We just have to recognize that we are a planet, and that as a planet, we're going to embark on these endeavors. And meanwhile, me personally, I live in the United States, in the state of California, while someone else can live in New Zealand or somewhere else. It doesn't matter what we call it. So it's really just kind of bringing that all together. And as far as I see a question in the chat room here is, what do I think of the Rockefellers funding the Disclosure Project? Well, it would make sense, honestly. It really makes sense because as we saw from things like the Brookings Report stemming from the Majestic 12 meetings. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, folks. Stemming from the Majestic 12 meetings and the documents that have been released, all of which, those Majestic documents, by the way, are available in the Forbidden Vault. I need to get that link handy, but if someone in the chat room has that link handy, you can post that there, and it's under, I believe it's under Majestic 12. You can see these documents, and so all of those people, I'm sure a lot of those people on the Majestic 12 all stem from the old oil interests and banking interests and obviously the military-industrial complex, which in America followed under that, that territory, whatever you want to call it, of that Rockefeller faction. And during these meetings, they talked about, and they had the think tank, which gave us the Brookings Report, which talked about how, the people at large wouldn't be ready to handle this information. It would cause too much social breakdown due to the religious installations and some of the other social institutional mentalities at the time. So they felt it necessary to do a gradual disclosure of this information concerning the extraterrestrial situation. And so in the sense, this gradual disclosure has been going on and on and on. And you hear it, it's part of the movies, it's like that. That's why certain whistleblowers are allowed to keep talking. A very well-known one in the ufology circles is Dan Burrish, who was very active with that Majestic group, and who came out and who was allowed to do so because the timing was said to be right in terms of this planned disclosure. Because ultimately, like, we have to look at it from the other side too. A lot of these people who are on the inside, quote unquote, not all of them are like mean, dastardly people. A lot of them really think they're doing what's right and what's going to kind of help, keep people safe or just whatever. So yeah, they really think that that's the way. Might not be right. It might not be the best way, but they really do think that, at least some of them. And yeah, we know the other ones are just opportunistic and greedy. So yeah, that's there. But other ones aren't. So yeah, in a sense, they want this disclosure. They want this to happen. But it's just under the circumstances that are most opportune to some people, because no one wants to be left holding the bag. I remember a story that was told by I believe it was George Norrie after George Knapp kind of broke the Area 51 story, and how someone came to George and said, "Hey, I have clearance to go into that base. Do you want me to go in and tell you if this story is really true or not?" And of course, George was like, "Yeah, please, by all means." And so this man did, and when he came back to him, he said, "I see now why there's a cover-up." He said, "It's not because the people are worried about information getting out or this technology getting out or any of that stuff. It's because they don't want people are going to go to jail for what's going on, and they don't want to go to jail. So that gets into the whole amnesty situation because, like as Stephen would say, if/when he gets on, because there really isn't a law against covering up UFO technology. There's no law against it because most people don't accept it as reality. So it's not really illegal to do so. So as we say, we have to end the truth embargo because it's really an embargo on the truth because it's really not illegal yet. The whole, and I see the subject of blue being brought up, which is good, which is fitting because blue beam, like for a long time, it seemed like the conventional method of control was going to be more viable. The wars, trying to introduce disease and things like that, but obviously that hasn't worked. I think the H1N1 was a good example of how that energetic component of disease was lacking in that collective consciousness for it to really start this taking off and going somewhere. Then as we see, everyone's tired of war. No one really wants to fight anymore. I think we're seeing the last little bit of that in Korea right now, and that will only be let to go so far, I'm sure. So it seems like the whole next viable option in trying to maintain the status quo would be some kind of fake extraterrestrial invasion or incident, shall we say. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an invasion. It just has to be an incident. That's the other thing. It doesn't have to be like all over the world, Independence Day style, all these other things. It has to do, it just has to be one incident. It can be, I was having a discussion yesterday about this and how, like, theoretically, if you're going to do this, it'd be probably the most logical to attack, like, a military installation with our own sort of, like, secret technology and blame it on a fictitious race. Because that way you avoid the exopolitical snafu of now involving an actual race into allegations, actual race kind of being implicated in something, and then that way you can just invent the disposition of this illusion, and because you can't attack civilians, because if you attack civilians, then those would be too many people waking up in not the way that they would be able to control. Like no one would be able to control hysteria if they did like a 9/11 and blamed it on ETs, because there'd just be like nothing, no way to contain that. So, so it's okay. Well, I just got word now that due to some of the communication snafus dealing with the shakeup in the Universal Truth Evolution team, Stephen was informed that this show was canceled, but we didn't know that we needed to re-inform him that it was actually still going on. So I'm sure at one point we'll reschedule Stephen Bassett to be back on, and we'll talk to him then about all this exopolitical information. I'll still keep going for a little while for those who are interested and want to start tying all this in, or if you have questions, or if you just want to call up and discuss any of these things and voice your opinion, please do, because it's really not about one voice, one person. It's really all of us that are making this happening. We're all in this together. We're all allies. So I am seeing some more comments and questions though in the chat room. So, but okay, this is more of a comment. But about basically these people, kind of keeping this information for our own good. That's what they think. At least that's what some of them thought. The academic elites probably thought that, and then the ones who just kind of want things for themselves were just like, yeah, that's a good idea, because then they're the ones that maintain the control. And that's in a sense what's trying. I'm just sorry, but this part of that planned disclosure thing would be part of that effort to maintain some kind of input into the general populace, and then including if and to set up things like if there is some kind of staged or rigged event involving some kind of extraterrestrial race. But we do have another caller here. I'm going to go ahead and see who this might be. And caller, are you there? All right. Hello, caller. You're on the air right now.
Hi, Jerry?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, this is Ed Chavez. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Ed, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. I'm not sure exactly if I'm interrupting on a topic or not. I'm kind of multitasking away from the computer right now. I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about the scalar pendants and basically jewelry that's been coming out lately. I was wondering if you knew anything about that.
Yeah, actually I do know a little bit. It was kind of interesting. I had the chance to have an all-day workshop and a little chat with a researcher named David Sereda, and he actually makes some of these things using one of his devices that he made up. And for those who are not familiar with David Sereda, he used to be an engineer for one of the aerospace contractors actually here in Southern California, and then until he realized he was working for Darth Vader, and then stopped. And so since then he's been doing a lot of consciousness research using scientific method. And one of the things he realized was he found out was how to encode these pendants with different harmonics, like the ohm sound or the sound of the sun makes, and a couple of other things a couple other tones that are very charged, because I guess he did a lot of research with Matsuri Emoto. And these pendants, which are pretty cool looking, they're made out of different gemstones, but they actually increase the electrical conductivity of your skin by wearing these things. It's actually measurable with any voltmeter you can get from Radio Shack. So like something like that, I can imagine would be like phenomenal for someone who does like say massage or hands-on healing or Reiki, to be sporting one of those bad boys when they're doing a session, because it's like I said, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, there's different levels, and it can be anywhere from a few hundred milliamps millivolt jump to like a full-on, 1,000 millivolt jump in your conductivity. So I know he explained a little bit how this works. It has to do with the Kashmir effect. With the two metal plates being almost touching, but not quite, that creates a sort of field that taps into the etheric field, the information layer, whatever you want to call it, that 0 point. And how he was saying in his research, he found out that within a lot of these stones, or pretty much any stone, you have that going on a molecular level. So it's a matter of configuring them in a certain way in order to literally resonate at a certain frequency. I was wondering if I could chime in here for a second.
I remember watching a documentary with, or having to do with Nikolai Tesla, and how he had come up with some scalar weapons, particularly one that had been able to tap into Earth's frequency, and how he had pretty much shaken up an entire city. As a researcher myself, I do know that every molecule, every element out there does have its own specific frequency, and there can be an anti-frequency that can basically tear apart all the later sp orbitals on any kind of element. And I also know that there's some research going on right now, medical research having to do with vagus nerve functions, and how most of the things that we eat are positively charged, and how negative electrons or anions tend to help the body absorb, or your cells absorb its nutrients a lot better, and I think it has a lot to do with sodium ion channels, things of that sort. Now, I know that it's still pretty experimental at this point, but if they were able to tap into specific types of cells, all having their own different frequencies, you'd be able to help that part of the body out just by being able to, or having some sort of scalar pendant with the anti-frequency I guess you can call it, help it perform better. And so it's still something I'm looking into, but it's just very, very interesting to me. I was speaking with Greg von Hessler. He just got one himself.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know like how doing different geometric relationships between certain things create these kind of harmonics too, like that. The negative ion flow through, I know, has been demonstrated with the use of pyramids too. So yeah, it's very, very interesting because all these applications, I think, as a lot of us are finding out now, it's like how we don't necessarily need fancy equipment to pull a lot of this stuff off either. It's really cool. So yeah, it's a great subject, and me and my friends we kind of joke around because we're Gen Xers, so we grew up playing a lot of video games, and so we kind of joke that life is turning into a big role playing game, and now we're even getting like the +3 strength amulets and stuff like that because so it's really cool, and yeah, the whole concept that you're saying about being able to nullify certain frequencies too. I'm seeing more and more of products like that. I haven't had a chance to talk to too many people who make them yet. But yeah, that's all other things that are going to be cool that we're going to be getting into here in the near future. Because as we're finding those not all EMF fields are beneficial to our health. So yeah.
And I do know that vitamins, as a matter of fact, those of us that do take them, I'd say, and then this is just a guesstimate here, somewhere around 90% of the actual elements found in a vitamin are positively charged, and the body has an extremely hard time trying to absorb most of those nutrients. And nearly all of what it is, say, a multivitamin that you do ingest, does not get absorbed by the body.
And that's true. Yeah,
and finding out how these pendants are being made, or how they can produce, or what it is that they do to them that make them produce these frequencies, could be a huge benefit to mankind.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's something, honestly, Ed, that I think even like with Universal Truth Evolution, I think I would love to see us get involved directly in research, and stuff like that. So maybe we can even talk about that, promotion in some way, or just something. Try to formulate a team that can maybe kind of produce something like this, so we can start offering people to help. Because it's just time, I think, and it's also one of the things that how I've talked about on the show, about like how everyone's worried about the economy and worried about the suits on Wall Street. Well, meanwhile, we could be making our own things that's going to keep everything moving. So yeah, absolutely.
That is, of course, until they come up with another stipulation on the S10 bill or 510 bill. That will block us from producing that as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure there'll be a backlash of some kind. So, and just real quick, Eagle 021, I do see your questions, and I will get to them in a little bit. We have plenty of time, so don't worry. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be a backlash of sorts, because it's including, I can see something even including going after the energy psychologies and energy modalities, and because it just takes one person with a little clout screaming, "Oh, well, we got to be safe. Think of the children," and then we got ourselves a little snafu. So, because obviously, like things like big pharma, they don't want people to know how to heal themselves. So
now I actually have some information that I'd like to talk to, actually, right before I have to go here. It has come to my attention, and I can't provide any further information on this, but there is a lot of big pharmaceutical companies that do realize that there are a lot of natural remedies, cures out there that are starting to come mainstream. And within these next few years, the ball has already started on this. They are trying to come up with, and as I'm sure everybody knows, or thinks, they have cures for AIDS, cancer, diabetes. You mentioned it; they probably have it. The fact that what they're doing now actually is putting out certain research teams, I guess you can say, to make it seem legit, like it's something that they have just recently come out with. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a lot of cures coming up here pretty soon, and a lot of these are going to be very beneficial. And people might think, well, they're probably going to be putting in, tracking devices or whatever you think these cures are going to have in as well. Just want people to realize that there is a lot of info that's going to be brought out. A lot of these cures are going to be coming out here in the next few years, and whether they do anything post-production is something I do not know anything about, but I do know that there are a lot of projects in the works right now to make this come out and make it seem like it's something that's brand new. Yeah. And with that, I actually have to take off right now. I've got a couple things I need to get done. I'll be listening in. I'll be in the chat room.
All right, great, Ed. Thanks for calling. And, yeah, definitely. And anytime you feel like calling up, bud, feel free. So.
All right. Well, take it easy.
All right. Thanks again.
All right, bye.
Bye. So yeah, like Ed was saying there, he's right that soon enough these there will be these companies who are going to try to introduce themselves as the savior. Look what we just thought of. Look what we invented. Look what we just discovered. All these things are going to start happening, and and as I think a lot of us know here, obviously a lot of it's been around. It's been suppressed. So really, it's just the lid coming off of that, and then the patents. The people who hold the patents that are underneath that. Those corporations, those are the ones that will be, pushed to the forefront. And, there'll be some cool stuff coming along because they know that, once the cat's out of the bag, fully, and people realize, like, hey, you guys haven't been testing. Hey, you guys have been forcing through bunk drugs. They're going to have to change or else they're going to be gone. So the same thing goes for the automakers and the energy industries. Because a lot of them do own the geothermal plants that don't bend any laws of thermodynamics or anything like that. But do and can provide very, very low cost energy. It's the same interest, the oil interests and such that own these. So at one point they'll bring that out more. They'll bring out more hydrogen stuff, maybe the 0 point stuff at one point. And they'll be like, yeah, look what we've been hard at work doing. This is why we needed all that money from you guys so we can do this. And that's how they're going to try to rectify that in the minds of the masses. So that's why it's very, very important that we get this information out now so we know that won't be effective and we'll be able just to be there and tell them, well, it's nice that you're now on the collective boat here, guys. Thank you, But, yeah, it's going to be great. It'll be cool times. And as we're seeing that no matter what, this stuff is coming out just through the private channels, through people like you and I, and just being active and manifesting the world that we want to see, and doing the things that we really truly want to do. We'll start manifesting these things on our own without the help of these guys. So we just got to keep on keeping on, as they say. And so yeah, it's all an interesting time. That's everything kind of coming together right now. And a lot of different ways. And so now I will get to Eagle's question here, which was cool because it had to deal with what's supposed to be the topic of the day, which is extraterrestrials and exopolitics, dealing with crop circles. What are they trying to tell us, as well as are there factions of extraterrestrials working with the quote-unquote NWO or the group of elites who are very in it for themselves. There are They do. I'm not sure. Obviously, unless you're kind of dealing with these situations directly, you can't know what their interactions are up to this moment. But like, for instance, Aaron McCollum, he was probably one of the last, or probably one of the most recent whistleblowers in the sense of saying that yes, that there was interactions between these native elites, whatever you want to call them, and the reptilians and the Greys. And that's been a treaty that's been talked about by different people, including, like how I mentioned earlier, Dan Burrish, who talked about these different treaties with different groups, shall we say. In Dan Burrish's case, it was with possible future humans in a sense. And then in other instances, it's apparently just other races entirely. And just like anything, though, we can't generalize by just because the reptilians and the Greys tend to be working with the negative elites. That doesn't mean all Greys and reptilians are working with the negative elites. So we got to watch out in this day and age of a new form of racism or xenophobia. That we don't just make blanket judgments because we're really just getting a very, very slim part of the story, and so we have to keep that in mind and just know that just rule of average kind of shows that it's like there's not really one race that's horrible. It just doesn't work that way, and so there's it's. And then in terms of the crop circles, well, the crop circles are an interesting subject entirely because they do have meaning apparently, and they've made that apparent enough in different ways. There's some that mark eclipses that they're very obvious using our own known symbols or conglomeration of our own symbols and pictographs. Letting us know of events that are going to happen, alignments, eclipses. There's been some other interesting correlations too, with even books released. There's a lot of other things. Or one of my favorite crop formations, it's SETI's response is what it's called. For those of you who haven't heard that term SETI, which is, I believe it's abbreviation, but CETI, I believe. And not E.C. SETI, not James Gilliland's ranch and his group, but SETI, which is the organization that is funded a little bit through public funding, where they listen to radio signals in the cosmos trying to find other people broadcasting TVs or something. It's really kind of a cult, honestly. And but what they do is they send out a message. They send out a message that kind of details our position in our solar system, our genetic makeup, what we kind of look like, the population at the time, things like that they kind of broadcast out. And one of these crop formations actually formed in the field adjacent to one of the SETI satellite transponders that basically detail it out. We're from Orion, and this is what we look like. This is our DNA strand, and everything, as well as this responded to the communication being sent out. There's cameras in the field that kind of point out, and there's a lot of security around there. No cameras caught anything, and it just appeared overnight. So that's one of my favorite ones because the interesting thing about this is because how some people say, oh, it's Doug and Dave doing the board dance in the middle of the cornfield. Well, see, that's they do that. There is people who fake these, and I can even comment on that, which is kind of interesting in itself. But see, if you stomp corn down or wheat or whatever it is down with a board, that picture is not going to show up again the next season. It's that corn is going to grow back, or that wheat's going to grow back. It's going to be straight stalks, and there's going to be nothing remarkable about it next season. Now, with some of the phenomenon that's happening is called ghost crop circling, which is essentially the image stays there the next season too, like albeit not in perfect form, but you can see it. like the I forgot what the name of it is, but it's the disk message, which has an ASCII coded disk and what looks like almost like a gray or something like that, kind of holding it up, and it talks about beware of those who make false promises and things like that. And so that one actually did come back a little bit the next season. So it's like, if these are all hoaxes, then how does that happen? So that alone right there should put enough in skeptics' minds to say, you know what, this needs serious consideration, because you can't duplicate that with a board and a rope. I'm sorry, it's not going to work. Especially when you get the soil samples and they're, you know, fairly unremarkable, other than the fact that the crops tend to grow more robust after that. So yeah, it's very interesting. And then just kind of jumping on the hoax crop circle aspect, there is this documentary called Serial Wormholes. You guys can Google that if you want to. And they detailed quite a bit of these different crop formations. But they also talked to one of the most heavily traveled or heavily visited crop circle websites. That they said that they actually do make their own formations, because they did it as a controlled study to see what the reaction is, and if these are fakes, then kind of like what would it take to actually pull it off to make people believe that it was real. And keeping in mind that they are investigating ones that they feel are real or can't be explained, and promoting that on their site. So the interesting thing, though, that they found was that when they would make certain formations that had those geometric relationships, you know, like say like that a lot of us would recognize, either like a fractal sort of repeating pattern of using like sacred geometry and things like that, which a lot of the crop formations have elements of that in there. They found that they were actually getting that same electrical charge when they did them too. Like, so they found that just the certain geometric patterns literally created a physical charge in the air around it. And it wasn't because the aliens did it. It's because of that hyperdimensional physics aspect that people like Richard Hoagland talk about, Joseph Farrell, David Wilcock, Nassim Haramein. It's all that same thing, and that's actually that bridges a little bit into what Ed and I were talking a little bit earlier about, in terms of some of these quantum harmonic pendants, because a lot of those effects, those beneficial effects, can be achieved by placing things within particular geometric relationships to each other. As I mentioned, that it's been demonstrated with the pyramids. Creating pyramids creates those negative ions that take away some of those free radicals and the positive charges that's in our body. So that it all kind of works into each other, and then once again, this all works into that elevation of consciousness that's going on in general, and awareness of how powerful we are without the use of really anything other than our minds and our intention. And so, you know, these crop circles, in a sense, you can say one of the messages are to awaken us. They are to awaken us to our own sort of divine selves, if you want to call it that, and with our own spiritual power, which really emanates from beyond this third dimension. So it's really not bound by all the crap that we have to deal with. So these crop circles apparently are there to do that in some respects, because even as we're seeing, like when we do find ones that are hoaxed or they're fake or they're man-made, they have a phenomenon to themselves, and then they also give us an opportunity to practice discernment. You know, what is the difference? Well, you know, how they say the stalks are broken. They tend to be broken and bent at 90-degree angles, like most, like, you know, someone stepping on a crop. Although, like they say that you can duplicate that sort of bending, but on the genuine ones, you see a bulb and a stretching effect that happens on the ones that aren't easily explained, on the crops themselves, on the stalks of the wheat or the corn, whatever it is. They actually don't break. They actually are actually bent. And there seems to be a lot of evidence of steam or heat used to some degree, because it seems to correlate a lot with aquifers that are underneath the ground where these formations appear. And but these formations have also appeared in different media too, all over the world: sand, ice, different things like that. Just the crop ones are obviously a little more permanent than something in sand or ice. So it's pretty intriguing stuff. And since this is kind of impromptu, just on and on here, I'm going to go ahead and play us a break play us a song for the break, since we're at the top of the hour. And since we're talking about ETs, I'm going to go ahead and play my buddy Kirk Ross's song Pumpkin Poem. And extra points for those of you out there who pick up the Area 51 reference in this song. So grab a drink, take a potty break, do what you got to do, and we'll be back in a little bit.
Secret For a millisecond time, milled about the intense little hole. No reason, just a candle in my hand. And I'm the lit and watch my eyes close.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Universal Truth Evolution Blog Talk Radio Show. I'm your host, Jerry Avalos, giving you an impromptu daily report. As our guest today, Stephen Bassett, seems we had some kind of communication breakdown here for whatever reason. No worries. I don't mind spending my afternoon with you great people and evening or morning with you in the archives there. So I'm sure we'll have Stephen on at another time, but be sure to tune in tomorrow when we're scheduled to have Stuart Swerdlow in here talking about all the wackiness that ensues in this planet as well. Stuart's an intriguing guy, has a lot of information about things like the Montauk Project and some of the other different extraterrestrial races, so I'm sure we'll have an awesome conversation tomorrow, so be sure to catch that one. And in the meanwhile, if anyone has anything they want to talk about or comment about something that we've already been discussing here, feel free to post your question in the chat room or give us a call and have a little chat here as we bring more of these subjects to light, all of the things that they've tried to keep us in the dark about. So, that being said, one of the things we do here with the daily show is to try to tie all these different ends together to make one big coherent picture of what's going on in this world, and taking into account things like the extraterrestrial situation, exopolitics, secret government, shadow government, consciousness, psychic function, metaphysical theories, and so on. And we try to bring this all into focus in this collective reality. So it's important that we do this and we share community while doing this, because after all, it's our world, and we all have to play our part, and we all do play our part, whether we like it or not. So it's best to make this experience here at Camp Human one big movie where you star in it as the most badass character you can dream up for yourself, and that's the best all of us can do for ourselves, because when we do that, we do it for each other, and we create an awesome world together. So we're going to jump into some of the craziness in this world, shall we say, and another "ha-ha, I told you so" by those of us in this truth community, shall we say. I'm going to post a link in the chat room here so you guys can follow along too. It's posted on Blacklisted News as well as many other news outlets now about a study concerning fluoride in our water. Another one of those crazy conspiracy theories. I know that they wouldn't do that to us. I hear it's good for our teeth. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But apparently one of the effects it has is, in fact, lowering children's IQs. And this hot off the heels of a recent study, which I have to find, it's like a post for you, that the Fox News, in fact, lowers your IQ as well. So, the proof is in the pudding. They really are trying to dumb us down and everything else. So, but this fluoride situation is very intriguing, considering. I'll read a little quote here by one of the researchers. Here's the quote here. What is also striking is that the levels of the fluoride in the community where the lowered IQs were recorded were lower than the EPA's so-called safe drinking water standards for fluoride of 4 parts per meter, and far too close for comfort to levels used in artificial fluoridation programs, which gets into almost triple that time. So here they're saying that even the amount that's being saved by our FDA, they're out for our good, right, people? I hope you heard the sarcasm alert on that one. It's even lower than what they say is cool, and they're finding that there's a correlation with these IQs dropping. One way or another, I think this warrants more study. I think that we should look into this, and we should actually go ahead and correlate. Now, are these people Fox News watchers too? Because if they are, wow, we really got to do some kind of intervention there. Something. Get them some archive shows from the Universal Truth Evolution as well, or something. But, or the chemtrails for that matter. Wonder if that happens to be in a heavy air traffic area as well. So yeah, it's very very intriguing, this fluoride thing, because there actually was another report on fluoride earlier too, about more counties going to include that into their water, and most people obviously don't really dig on that idea. So I'm sure there'll be more uproar about that. And but it's interesting because once again, not even that long ago, how many people would have been saying, "Oh, you're crazy about the fluoride thing," but now we're saying that that's not the case. So this is kind of this illustrates the importance for everyone to really be resolute in facts. Okay, there's one thing to be resolute in your beliefs. Okay, because you can believe you're right, but you could in fact very well be wrong in relation to the collective consciousness. Okay. But if you have a data bundle, so to speak, you have statistics with you that shows that you're remarking about this collective reality with you, stand resolute with it. You have to, because it's like that. There's nothing else you can do, because anything else, then you would be lying if you're not presenting that truth. So, and if we don't have that to back up our beliefs on things that we know, we feel are right, and probably are, well, then it should be that much easier for you to be guided towards those facts that you need to communicate yourself clearly. Because as we're finding here, it's not really so much about acquiring new knowledge all the time, because there really is no new knowledge. Everything kind of on a energetic or spiritual level, everything already is happening at once, so it doesn't really matter. So it's all about timing and really remembering our knowledge and our true self. So it's really these different avenues of information gathering or whatever are really just ways we can relate to each other and communicate to each other. Because for case in point, a lot of us are here because we all saw Aaron McCollum on Project Camelot, and then we followed his efforts because it resonated as truth with us, and here we are. So, but yeah, we have to do these things, and we have to just we use these as communication tools. So that's the other thing as well, is like TV, because me personally, I don't like watching TV. But at the same time, I see the value in TV for different reasons. For media purposes, to review things, even including anything from movies to documentaries on the subject, as well as just kind of seeing what the pulse of the popular culture is, to really kind of know what kind of group mind you're dealing with in terms of like how openly am I really going to be able to express some of these things that I know to be true. So it gives us a gauge when we see like UFO reports on a major media station like CNN, even if it's slanted, or 9/11 for that matter. I've seen his name is escaping me now, but the spokesperson for architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, I've seen him just totally just squash people in debates on Fox News of all places. So the more that happens, the more we realize that we can be more outspoken without having to worry too much about alienation or straight up just this negativity and sometimes violence, because some sensibilities are easily violated, and that paradigm, when it just shakes too much, they get, there's sometimes violent reactions, especially when it challenges long-held beliefs about the system, about the government. One of the things recently in the news too from yesterday was the United States here, Attorney General Eric Holder was saying that basically he's more worried about the terrorists, quote unquote, from within the United States, our own homegrown terrorists, as they say, like maybe some of the people, like some of the things that they showcased in Jesse Ventura's show about the FEMA camps. I'm sure there houses a lot of homegrown terrorists too. But what is that? Well, we've heard the Obama administration's take on the conspiracy theory people, as they would say, who don't believe in the crap that they handed to us for the official 9/11 story. And it's like, I'm sorry, people out there who might listen to this, but it's crap. And it has nothing to do with not trusting the government, being an anarchist, any of that stupid crap either. It has to do with just logistics and data. There's no wing marks on the Pentagon. How did these buildings fall down at free fall speed from a fire that steel structures that have never fell down under this kind of conditions ever? 3 of them same day. How does that work? So those are the kinds of questions that are going to be posed on these flyers that making with the help of the team and supporters here about ending this truth embargo. Because what are we doing? We're just asking the questions, and we're terrorists for that, according to this man. And so I'm not sure if I'm sure he's talking about some of the people who really do sympathize with some of the more hardcore groups out there who really are thinking about blowing things up. And so I'm sure that he's talking about that too. But the problem is they don't differentiate, at least not in the mass media, between those who are actually posing intellectual questions and those who are really posing an actual threat, physical threat. That's not you or I. That's not what we're doing. We're bringing information. Does that threaten their livelihood in a sense? Yeah, it can, because they built their towers on bullshit. Excuse my language there. But it really is. So to call us terrorists when we're not the ones who are sending in the orders to bomb these other countries, for whatever reason. We're not the ones doing that. In fact, it's people like you and I who are saying, let's stop bombing. We need to stop killing people. So yeah, I mean, this is one of the things I really go off on, because like I said, we've heard these statements by the administration, and in particular with things like 9/11, just kind of categorizing anyone who questions that as being crazy conspiracy theorist or terrorist, and I'm sure as soon as they'll probably say the same thing about people who support WikiLeaks. Oh, well, you're just as good as a cyber terrorist then. I'm sure some of the brainwashed Fox O'Reilly viewers would say that, because they're not interested in truth. They're interested in secrecy because of their own reasons, either because of their own implication or because of their own insecurity, on a personal level. So that's just how it is. And so, those of us here, as I'm sure many of you have probably been aware for quite a while, and have had to put up with a bunch of crap for who knows how long, that you see that it does make a difference. It is changing, but we have to stand our ground. It really does. We really do, and it's very important. We have to have a knowledge base that we can communicate with others. So, I know a lot of people. I hear this a lot. No one in particular, but just kind of a general thing when it comes to reading books or watching longer videos. You still get groans. I still hear groans sometimes. Like, oh man, it's like, what are you groaning about? I mean, it's like, yeah, if it's information that means it'll probably take you less time to read it, because you can just kind of skim. You know what I mean? But the point is that someone will say like, oh yeah, I read that Ike book too. Oh yeah, so did I. When he said this, I feel this way about it. When he said that, I feel this way about it. And a dialogue happens. And then we start creating more of that community that we're looking for, the more aware community. So don't be intimidated by the books or the longer videos, and we can break them up in pieces. But it's important that we do this just so that we all can say, yeah, I saw that too, and this is my feelings on it, and everything, because that's part of the mainstream recognition, because it has to do with having that information be able to resonate off of each other, to really build into something more, into a new thought form. So, but if anyone else has a question or wants me to comment once again on anything, please feel free to post your question in the chat room or give me a call, and we can talk about just about anything here. And as some of you know, I am a born lucid dreamer, so I do have knowledge into that. So if anyone has any dream questions or want even an interpretation, honestly, feel free to ask that or call in. Be happy to get into any subject here. As like I said, this is an impromptu show. As our scheduled guest we had some miscommunication here apparently, so we're just kind of running with whatever happens. And we do have some time here, and since we're on the air, and I really dig on talking to everyone here, I figured I'd just keep it going and talk to just see what we can do today. So excuse me 1 second here. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting to see everyone's mindset right now. There was article recently posted about some of the what was it, economiccollapseblog.com cited as being some of the was it the most wasted money the government has spent, and which I think some of you find entertaining, just to see some of the stuff that the United States government does spend its money on, and I have to admit some of them are pretty funny, in a sense at least. But I can understand why they do it. But it sounds very, it just sounds kind of weird. For instance, one of the things that the hottest contested item was $3 million being spent or given to researchers at the University of California, Irvine, or UCI, to play World of Warcraft and to study the communication forms of that are emerging online through these games. That one, actually, I think I haven't seen that cited somewhere recently in the main Associated Press about, it's $3 million given to them to play World of Warcraft. Which I have to admit, that is quite a lot of money. I can't imagine how much equipment you really need to kind of do that study, or how much you really need to pay people to kind of do that. But there you go. So then another $239,000 was given to Stanford University to research how Americans use the internet to find love. Which I think is kind of interesting too. Let's see some of the other ones. Let's see. There's some pretty good ones here. Like there's one about spending. Let's see how much money was, but it was on studying the male prostitutes in Vietnam. There's there's $60,000 given to a small pizzeria in Iowa. But they have a lot of these little things like this in here, and it's kind of interesting because, on one hand you can look at that list and say, wow, that's ridiculous. That's just like, how can they do that? $60,000 to this one pizza place, probably because they knew someone. Oh yeah, maybe. Who knows? But the thing is, like, well, honestly, I'd kind of rather see our government give small businesses money for one, because they don't give small anything that very often, as we're seeing right now in America, the whole tax issue with the wealthy getting a massive tax break, while meanwhile we have to barter that money away in order to just get extensions for unemployment pay for all these people who got laid off because of all their bonehead moves and greedy moves. So things like that don't get my goat that much. That goat comment was for you tomorrow, by the way. And and same thing with actually even internet studies of social interaction. Me personally, I think you can spend money on a better thing than trying to understand what's going on in terms of our social development in relation to the internet, both just in interpersonal communication in the sense of recreational and camaraderie kind of thing, as well as the intimate, because these are all phenomena that are just starting. In a lot of ways, they've really just started blossoming within the last decade. And so we either going to have our institutions of higher learning look into this now or play catch-up, and I think in a lot of ways they're still playing catch-up because of the whole inhibition that's going on, the suppression of information that's going on. So to me, like I said, I don't necessarily think this is a waste. I think that there should be more of it. I think that's one of the problems that's going on with our funding in pretty much every country, I'm sure, is that most of our top minds and the most of our funding goes into the military. And, I understand that we need defense. Defense is something that you should have for whatever reason, because you never know when you're going to need it, and you hope that you don't. But, we do need it sometimes for whatever reason. So that should be there. We should have spending on Army and the military and the Navy, Air Force, all this stuff like that. But the problem comes when we spend all of our money there almost, and we apply all of our great minds to military resources, or we categorize it into that, like for instance here in the United States with NASA, because NASA is supposed to be a public entity, but it's not. So it's really more under military control. So we have this problem of this misguided energy that is really going towards killing people in a sense, because that's kind of what the military does. That's what they are. They're hired killers. Even in defensive purposes, if you need them to defend you, they're defending you with firearms and weapons and all other kinds of things. So they're killers. Make no mistake. That's what we do in the military. It's all good. We need killers sometimes. But that's what they are. So if we're putting all of our intention and all of our everything into that, then what are we? That's what we are, especially here in America, as I'm sure a lot of you outside have seen how, obviously we've been the aggressors in the past decade or so on all these wars. It's the first time we ever did any preemptive wars in American history. Here we are being killers because that's where we focus our energy to. That's what we said is important. Everyone's like, oh, we can't change the military. We can't do that. I was like, yes, we can. In fact, on that note, let's jump right on that, because we are seeing a little bit of divine feminine energy, shall we say, entering the military finally, with the repeal of don't ask, don't tell. If that does not embody political government relations on all kinds of scales for I don't know how long, I don't know what does. Don't ask, don't tell. Don't ask us about UFOs because we're not going to tell you anything. Don't ask us about what really happened to JFK, the Roswell, the 9/11, the Fed. We're not going to tell you. Don't ask, don't tell. They really love that policy for sure. So this is a big blow to that whole mentality of like, oh, let's just kind of sweep it under the rug and pretend it's not there. Meanwhile, we all know it is. And so this is, while it seems like it's something, I'm sure some people will be like, oh, that's personal stuff anyways. It really should, even if it is repealed, that's cool, it's good. But, I'm not really sure how much it'll impact everything else. Well, it really does, because it establishes a precedent. It establishes that whole attitude that you just pretend it's not there, that's not going to work. It's because that doesn't necessarily make it so. It doesn't, just because someone doesn't tell you that they're gay doesn't mean they're not gay, And same thing like what's going on with these other subjects. Just because you don't tell us about the UFOs outright doesn't mean we don't know that they're there. So then once again, it happened with WikiLeaks. Yeah, just because you don't tell us relationships, diplomatic relationships are really bad right now, doesn't mean they're not happening. So, and that's the thing about it. So this whole fright of transparency is once again a fallacy that these people really want to perpetuate for whatever reason. Obviously a lot of their reasons are self-centered, but or just based on fear. But they are delusional. Like, they really are, because as we're seeing, it's like we all kind of know anyways. We all kind of know anyways for one reason or another, either because we put in that good old-fashioned left brain research, getting the statistics, narrowing things down, or we have an ultra-keen, fired-on right brain that just tapping into that collective consciousnness and just finds that truth. Either way, it's still the truth. So you can't hide from it, And I think they're starting to realize this even more so, because and practicality is taking over. As I reported last time about 40% of Americans still believing in creationism, but like I said, I point out that means 60% don't. So that means fundamentalism in this country has now kind of been overturned. So it is a positive thing. That really does mean, and I'm not saying that, like me personally, I can see religion. I see religions as a school, but just like any school, you have to graduate at one point. You have to move on. And so I'm not saying that we should end religion as it is, because there's stories in there when presented properly do nurture a healthy spiritual upbringing in a sense. But that's the thing; it's been used to manipulate now. But either way, it all is really coming down to this change, which is very, very, very cool, because it does mean that there is more for all of us coming around. So once again, if anyone in the chat room has anything that they would like to add or comment on, or maybe share with the group concerning any subject, feel free to go ahead and post that question in the chat room, or go ahead and give us a call. We'd love to hear from you and have a little chat about these different things. And while on that subject, if there is anything that you guys in the chat room would like to hear about in general or comment on, please feel free just to make a comment. I'd love to hear about this. So there is another interesting thing that came out in the off the I guess you can call them news wires, email wires here in the United States. We have the Government Accountability Office, which issues reports every day. Whether there's anything to report on or not, they do. They post out different things like contract protests or audits that they're doing. It actually is a pretty well intentioned and group there from what I've noticed. But unfortunately, they don't necessarily have authority. So while they might turn up interesting facts, they really can't do anything about it. And I think that's why they exist. Even though they do absolutely report on some of the stuff that we know is true and creates tangible ties, once again, to that collective reality. Just like recently, which was yesterday, yesterday's report, that they're looking at the 2010 United States financial statement. Excuse me. And I'll read a quote from this, which details some of their difficulty. And here's this little excerpt from it. The main obstacles to a GAO opinion were, number one, serious financial management problems at the Department of Defense, the DoD, that made its financial statements unauditable. The federal government's inability to adequately account for and reconcile intergovernmental activity and balances between federal agencies, and three, the federal government's ineffective process for preparing the consolidated financial statements. Essentially meaning that the Department of Defense and there's a couple other ones they cited, which is the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Labor, did not get clean opinions, meaning that they're finding that these people intentionally muddied up their financial statements to make them untraceable, which I find is definitely interesting with the Department of Labor, because what are they doing? I mean, Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security is kind of like fine. We know that they're getting a bunch of black op money to be siphoned off from all the different tax programs and all these other things that goes into these projects that don't ask, don't tell. We're not going to tell you anything, so don't bother asking. So they're going to be doing that with that money, yes, we know it. But the Department of Labor, that's what I find very, very peculiar. And what I think, too, is awesome that we do have the Government Accountability Office at least kind of voicing this up, saying that, hey, we're trying to do our job and we're getting roadblocks internally by these people. I have some more on file that I'll have to dig through that have cited Department of Homeland Security before, as well as NASA, and some of these unauditable statements. So that's the other thing that it kind of, once again, even though this proves that, once again, either they're completely incompetent or very, very well or very good at what they do, which is hiding their own accountability. And in that sense, then that kind of lets you know a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes without really giving anything away. And it lets you know, that even internally, that there is more than just one side. Because as I made mention before, these people, they think they're doing what's right. They actually do think what they're doing is what's right. And so there are people who are really hardworking, good people in the FBI, I'm sure the CIA too, and the police and all these other things. But obviously the problem is when we have the small group that really exploits and to some degree extorts things from everyone for their own good. So it's kind of it definitely pays for all of us to really be aware of that and kind of look at it from both sides, because then we can really discern what's going on. Just for, like, especially in relation to things like, the internet and getting information from the internet, even like the show, for instance. These things I'm saying, I'm trying to supply as many links as I can and tangible, lines that I can. But research it yourself, because there's more to it. There's definitely more to all this. That rabbit hole, as people say, goes deeper than just that whole state of the moment address. And the more well versed, as I was saying earlier, the more we can effectively communicate this as a whole, and really bring about some more change, including changing the attitudes towards the internet. As we were saying, is because for the longest time, I think a lot of people, there's a stigma about information on the internet that it was somehow less valid or needed affirmation from the major news networks on TV in order to kind of really be real news, quote unquote. Well, that's changing, because as statistics are proving that TV viewership is going down. The internet usage is going up, including places like YouTube and Blog Talk, information resources like this, because this lets us know that yes, people are waking up on the whole more and more all the time, because they're finding that these news reports aren't going in depth. They don't give us the real news because it's incongruent with the actions that seem to happen and unfold. It's always to say one thing, and then what ends up happening is another thing. So more and more people are looking into to other avenues of information. So this is why it's important for all of us now listening, especially those who've really just stuck on here right now. I thank all of you for hanging out with me for this impromptu show, because it shows that we really do care. We really are trying to create a community. We really are trying to share this information, and it's not about being right. It's not necessarily. It's about just sharing the truth. Because what's right is that's a subjective thing, but the truth is the truth. That's just kind of what it is. It's our collective reality. It's what we're sharing. It's what we all have to deal with, and that's what we're bringing up. That's what we're trying to do here. And obviously, some people don't like that happens. So it's for instance, the net neutrality rules, and a lot of the whole thing about the internet, wanting to regulate the internet right now. There's an article there's just came out today about this in PC Mag. There's opposition, obviously, on Capitol Hill to the different net agreements and how it's going to be used, because that's the thing that I think they're going to start to realize. The more and more that people try to control the internet, the less likely it's going to happen, because just for those who may not be too fluent with the technical aspects of what the internet really is, the internet really is just a network, in a sense, almost like what we're doing here. Can you regulate the phone lines? Well, yeah, that's how they do it. But at the same time, the physical, like to set up a physical network, really just needs hardware and a pipeline of some kind, and that can be reestablished. I wouldn't even doubt right now that there is networks that are essentially internets off the main grid. We're essentially little private internets, and that actually happens in major corporations anyways, including going from the west coast of the United States to the east coast to China to Australia and all over the world on private internet networks. These already happen. So even if someone tries to clamp down, if the powers that be really try to clamp down, these are just going to pop up more and more. And that's where the information is going to come out from. So that's the thing. So don't worry about the internet. One way or another, we're all going to stay connected via the internet. This is going to happen. Just kind of like how Aaron and I were talking about yesterday about martial law. The logistics of implementing martial law are staggering in first world developed countries. Honestly, our military is too stretched thin. They can't do it unless they bring out the death rays or something. And then what happens then? Well, then all hell breaks loose for sure. Because then that once again gets into that snafu of everything. I mean, so Just all of a sudden you have a big storm on your hands. So yeah, so just stay resolute in that knowledge, because it's true, and just know that we are more able-bodied than they want us to believe. So that's why they do these things, and that's why I feel people like Alex Jones sometimes do a disservice by implying so much fear, like, oh, they're going to shut down the internet, oh, they're going to kill us all, oh, they're going to throw you to jail for growing your food. Yeah, go ahead and let them try. Let's go ahead and see them arrest the first person for growing something in their garden. Yeah, let's just go ahead and see what's going to happen. Go ahead and let them try, because they already do. They already tried. They've been trying for years. Well, I always say, how many doomsdays have all of us lived through here now? How many almost nuked have we lived through now? I mean, how many terrorist attacks have we lived through now? For that matter, how many celestial alignments have we lived through now? So there's a reason why. Because the collective obviously doesn't want that, and it's not that time yet. But yeah, I've seen the question about the Festival of Enlightenment in the chat room, which Aaron was talking about yesterday, which I did look into a little bit myself, and I did find it peculiar that, like, how does enlightenment coincide with being like a business organizing consultant for Shell, McDonald's, and all these other companies? How does that work into enlightenment? Like, I don't understand that. That's the thing I definitely see where the red flags went off. Because it's like, I don't see how that works. So what are they trying to do here? And it's interesting being the location I am in Southern California. It's actually very, very metaphysically active, shall I say. There's a lot of bookstores, always events going on every day down here of some kind on one of these subjects, be it secret government, UFO stuff, or, psychic tuning, or, healing modalities. There's always something going on every day here. And so you see all the different types, basically. And it's interesting because you see, like, how I mentioned on the show, it's like ultimately there's a financial interest, and then as we were talking about earlier in the show with the planned disclosure idea, they work in together. So yeah, so it makes sense to me why you see these things, and is it kind of insidious a little bit? Yeah. Is it a little bit? Does it feed back into that bigger apparatus that we're really not too happy about? Probably, yeah. Just because seeing who's the movers, shakers there, as Aaron was pointing out, these locations, they do tend to try to make them at little trendy kind of places, and the more sort of exclusive they try to make these things, the more obvious it is that there's incongruency on a soul level to what we're really trying to talk about here, which is really a kind of holographic consciousness that isn't pyramidal in its structure and its hierarchy. But when you have these things that obviously put on pedestal those who kind of really enable that, and then you're saying it's enlightenment, is that really happening? Is it really what's going on? And as I was saying, some of the things that I've seen down here, being in this area, we some of the speakers that are at that Festival of Enlightenment, I see people like that put on workshops sometimes in the same times that some of the workshops that I help organize or I've been part of go on down here in hotels and things like that, and you see just outrageous names like "Get Rich or Die Trying," and these are like corporate people, like as corporate as you can get, especially in the south part of Orange County, this area here. You get a lot of very conservative, business-minded people, and they're going to these workshops called "Get Rich or Die Trying," and it wasn't put on by 50 Cent. You know what I'm saying? There was no bulletproof jackets involved, only Gucci and Armani. And I would love to say the name of the people who promoted it, but I don't want to promote them. So because it's the name alone reeks of like this chauvinistic, pyramid hierarchical kind of mentality, and it's like, and whether they were kind of tied into any Illuminati sect, who knows? But it just kind of showed, because meanwhile, it was the workshop that I was part of, was about pineal attunement. So you have a pineal attunement through tones in one room, and then next you have this motivational get rich or die trying thing. And so my point is that, see, those people who run the get rich or die trying things are kind of seeing their numbers dwindle because they can't just use these like lame, corporate team building exercises they've learned on their retreats anymore. And so they have to try to look into something else, and they look at this metaphysical market and they say, wow, this is an untapped market, because in a lot of ways it is in relation to major money moving promotion stuff. So it makes sense. So, yeah, some of these people, like, they might even think that they're kind of like, going over to the good side now or something, but they still have that same mentality, the same capitalist mentality, honestly. Because I'm not, even though I'm American, I'm like, hey, capitalism. It's just like, I don't believe things are here to be I don't believe things are here for us to capitalize on them. I understand that there are profits to be made, but that's different from I'm going to capitalize. I'm a capitalist. I'm just going to capitalize on everything. And that's part of the problem, because that's exploitation. That gets into manipulation. And so this Festival of Enlightenment, whether the intentions were good or not, it reeks of that mentality. And then, honestly, some of the things that how Aaron was telling us about the whole Pleiadian blah, 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 that reeks of disinfo to me, too, just because, how someone asked earlier, I believe it was Eagle, was asked earlier about are some of these races working with our government, and apparently there's some Pleiadian, sects or groups or whatever that do align themselves more with that sort of a negative elite. Not all of them, of course, from what the reports are, and so and from what all the encounters that people have had, both psychic and physical, that they do look relatively. They're pretty much look human, just a little different. So in terms of kind of like, let's control this disclosure, let's control this perception, this does sound like a ploy. Especially if talking about some kind of exchange program. I mean, hello, what? I think something, I think someone probably really didn't like Aaron talking about that on the publicly on the airwaves here, because that's like, think about the implications of that. They're like, oh, this is a rescue mission. There's going to be kids. It's like, close encounters of the fourth kind, fifth kind situation here. And they're saying it's just going to be done by a festival where they're going to do some kind of exchange with the Pleiadians. I mean, it smells fishy, and as it's been pointed out, it's all close by these military bases. And I know not too far from Colorado there, we have apparently one of the most secret bases, I believe it was in Utah, not too far, and it's easy enough to pull out like Aaron was saying, like a TR-3B or a DD, whatever they're called now, and it's a triangle. And so we hear a lot of the reports of the Pleiadian ships looking like triangles. So it's kind of like, I can see how even that can be faked. like where they're saying that there's going to be this exchange or this and that, and meanwhile they're really just putting on an elaborate show to fake people into thinking that's what happened. And really all these kids are doing is getting a ride in a military craft to somewhere else, and then they'll, whatever happens. So I can also see something like that, just kind of knowing who's on that guest list. Because I think how Aaron mentioned Deepak Chopra, and I saw Greg Braden's going to be on there too. And both these men are aware, and I'm sure, and both of them are very respected in this field. I would say those two are probably two of the most renowned in a lot of ways, and most affluent due to their distribution and such to the different companies they use. So it makes sense why they would invite someone like them, those two guys, whether they're conscious of any kind of elaborate hoax or anything or not. Because someone like Deepak or Greg saying, oh yeah, I witnessed this Pleiadian communion, think about what that's going to do in relation to those people who were part of that festival, organized the festival, and spoke at that festival. So it just sounds like too much setting up, to kind of exalt certain people or a certain group. Excuse me. And I can see how Aaron and Meredith's BS meter went off. on that one, especially considering the guest list, like they're saying, because I respect the business world. I think it takes a tremendous prowess to be one who can conduct themselves and be aware, especially in an office environment. But at the same time, it's kind of like, let's not kid ourselves in terms of what especially the large corporations are doing. And if someone is kind of promoting themselves as the person within the system who's trying to make the difference, well, that's fine. Go for it. We'll support you then. But, that's a pretty bold thing, especially in this day and age, because, it's not like people can get away with that, because you'll get fired. There's supposed to be labor laws and such in America, but they're really not all that well enforced a lot of times, especially in relation to the big corporations, because they can pay people off. Maybe that's probably one of the reasons why the Government Accountability Office had a hard time auditing the Department of Labor, because of that very reason. People greasing the wheels, getting things, not so they can sidestep fines, all these other things. Like I said, so that could very well be it. That could very well be the issue, because there's quite a bit going on, and no one, like I said, wants to be left holding the bag. Everyone wants to, they want to be free. They want to make sure that they're not, strung up when when all this information comes out to those people who are unaware. And because as a lot of us know, I think a lot of us do still feel frustration and anger from time to time. But I think a lot of us, when we first start waking up to a lot of the knowledge, even if we knew it was true already or not, when it really starts becoming empirically provable that some of these things are true, you get pretty angry. And so that's one of the reasons why that whole I believe is that whole planned disclosure thing is going on too, because as we're seeing, that anger kind of turns into something else. It gets channeled towards endeavors such as the Universal Truth Evolution show, or even just speaking to your friends about it when they seem like they're curious, because this all helps sort of diffuse things little by little. Because at one point, we really are going to have to look at things like amnesty and in a very real way, because not everyone is necessarily evil who's been kind of perpetrating some of these really nasty things. A lot of them are kind of they're extorted into it. It's like, do this or else. So how can we really blame someone who's like was told, we're going to kill you and your family unless you do this, And so there's that going on too. So in a sense, I'm sure like a lot of people out there who are on the inside can't wait for us to be effective at what we're doing, because then that burden will be released. I'm sure there's probably many of us out here that know different people who may have worked in the military or with the military who have gag orders. They're very severe, because they do know the information. All of us will be like, hell yeah, this is awesome, but they can't say it. And so you see that burden on them. You see it take a toll on every single person who has that gag order on them. And then you ask, for what? Like for programs that we probably already know exist, or if we don't know those programs exist, we already know your intention and where they're going anyway, so it'd only figure that you'd be working on that weapon, that psychic program, that whatever. It's like we already know. Once again, it's like just because you don't tell us, because when we ask, doesn't make it so. So it's it really is all coming out, and the whole issue with WikiLeaks. I think the next batch, Julian said something about that there's going to be mentions of UFOs in there. So with that, that's going to open up even a bigger can of worms. And then, all the people who maybe made fun of those of us out here who are listening to us, all of a sudden those people are going to come to you because they might be a little afraid. And that's really where I found a lot of that resistance comes from. It comes from a fear within someone's self, because they don't want to look at themselves in some way, even if be it like ghosts or spirits, or you want to call it, or extraterrestrials. That fear that kind of keeps that out is their own. It's our own fear. And so as we help others do this by just bringing grounded information and a grounded perspective, the more we'll facilitate these things in our reality, to where those encounters like that they're trying to bait Aaron into are real interactions on an actual level playing field, so to speak, where it's not like, oh, we're exalting, this race because they're here to save us. No, they're here because they wanted to visit Earth, and there's going to be some Earthlings who want to visit the Pleiades. I mean, it has nothing to do with like, oh, save us from the big bad NWO. No, we won't need it. Because obviously I don't think any of us need saving. All of us need to do is just realize our own power that we have. And we don't need the saving. We can do it ourselves. We don't need to do it with guns. We don't need to do it with violence. We just need to do it with our minds and the information and sharing it and applying it wisely in our choices. By knowing how to how to vote, how to create good dialogue on one of these subjects without offending someone, because it can be done. Yeah, I mean, I found that you can introduce these subjects to people who are closed-minded, but if you come at them from the point of commonality, you're going to have much more success. And even if you just leave that seed there for later, it still matters. It still helps. It still all pushes us towards that greater goal of realizing our true power inwardly as divine beings, as well as our place in the cosmos as being, part of this universe. And that's really what we're looking for here. And to really manifest that, like how I said the other day, is be active in being the you that you want to be in that world where those things are realized, where it is realized. Be who you want to be. If that means you want to be a painter, start painting. If that means you always want to grow things, grow things. That means, just start doing these things. Start realizing, start manifesting that reality of who you are in that new world that's going to happen. And you'll see how quickly we can all get there if all of us just did a little bit towards that. Because it really is the amplification of consciousness effect, like the 100th monkey effect, whatever you want to call it, but on an emotional, conscious awareness level that doesn't come down to just cleaning our food, but really realizing our true selves. So thank you for hanging out with me today, everyone. It was an impromptu show. I hope I didn't bore everyone out of their mind. And we'll be back tomorrow with Stuart Swarbo, and that will be a fun show, I'm sure. And we have also some great guests coming up. We actually did confirm Carrie Cassidy for the future, too, very soon. So we're always going to have some cool guests, and we'll keep reporting on all the information that you know and care about. And we'll just keep it on here at the Universal Truth of Illusion, and can't wait to see you guys next time. Thanks again for hanging out with me, and we'll play ourselves out here with a little Dead Shaman, Weathering the Storm.